Because I like the balls on top holding, once again, whatever stuff they use.
Whatever slightly viscous goo the balls hold, that, with the proper amount of, jostling, it would then just spew out, squirt out.
Welcome to the Deadzone podcast. Deadzone is the sci-fi tabletop miniature skirmish game from Mantic Games. And now, here are your hosts Rob Harper and Jack Fyke. I am your announcer, William Randolph Wintergreen.
Welcome to the 39th episode of Deadzone the podcast for early August 2015. In this episode, we look at game balance and continue to go over the Warpath Alpha rules. As always, you can go to deadzonegame.podbean.com to see all the pictures, or you can go to youtube.com/c/Deadzone the podcast for the video version of the show. And now on to the episode.
Welcome to episode 39 of Deadzone podcast for August? Yeah, it's August already.
It's already August.
This summer has gone way too fast. And, I'm Rob.
And I'm Jack.
And we'll get right into it with some news.
We begin with our first segment, the news.
And the first bit of news we have is just coming out of Gen Con, which happened this past weekend for us, that Ronnie had an interview with the people at Beast of War, and he mentioned that the demand for the mass battle Warpath and the squad version of Warpath is so great, they're going to end up doing both.
What?
So we're going to have mass battle, squad, and then Deadzone for the individual models. It's kind of interesting. 3 different layers of war instead of just 2.
That's getting a little confusing as far as I'm concerned.
Well, the squad is going to be more like Warhammer 40k. That's why people want it, where you actually pick models off, and it's more people just kind of loosely grouped together, and then mass battle is going to be much larger scale.
I don't know how much of either of those we're going to play. Other than Deadzone, I think that's the main we wanted to dip our toes into, but...
Yeah, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, as it goes, because we'll have time, but yes, actual playing, probably not so much. We will have all the models for it, so...
Yes, that is one good thing. If they want to add a second game to another game set of rules, we already have the models. We can try it out and see.
Who knows? We might end up liking them. I don't think so. I think that that squad idea is kind of in the between Deadzone and
Warpath.
Yeah, why bother having something in between? But there's a demand for it, so obviously they listen to the community, which Mantic's good for.
That is true. There's a lot of people jumping ship from GW from all their antics, and if that's what they want, that's what they're part of.
They might as well cater to these people too.
Might as well.
The second bit of news we have is they released some pictures of the progenitors for the Veermen, and they're looking cool.
Yes.
They both got gas masks, so you can't complain about that.
Both have tanks of some sort of unknown chemicals on their backs.
Yep, and the one's got kind of an arm gun, and the other one's got looks like more like a flamethrower.
Yeah, I'm wondering if those are actual flamethrowers or chemical, like a.
I'm sure they shoot chemicals. That seems like that's the Veermean way.
Some sort of plague goo.
These are like the masters, but they are very detailed, and hopefully the plastics end up being this detailed because they got a lot of little details that'll be fun to paint.
And if some of that mutagen they're spewing ends up in the sewer and someone had just discarded with 4 of their pet turtles, who knows what could happen.
We got to get more of the Teratons and paint them up like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, yeah, that does sound Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Turtles. So yes, that's the progenitors. And then there's the heavy chem thrower, which is their kind of vehicle with their spotter there. He's got weird goggles to spot for them.
To me, that looked like a rocket launcher on his shoulder, but now I do see he does have something in front of his face, much like.
Yeah, it's kind of like a different lenses to see far away, I guess.
It's like a periscope and binoculars mated.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting.
It is interesting.
And I do like the chem thrower because I like the balls on top holding, once again, whatever stuff they use.
Whatever slightly viscous goo the balls hold, that, with the proper amount of, jostling, it would then just spew out, squirt out.
I see where you're going, but I'm not even going to comment. And here's a shot of all of them together to get scale. You can see the giant guy in the back there. Was it the Shredder?
Yes.
And then there's a different type on the chem thrower there, different nozzle of some sort. And yeah, it's a nice selection. These Veermen, as I always say, they're getting more and more interesting to me. They look fun.
Yeah. They're not they're not what I anticipated when they first mentioned Ratmen. I thought small.
Yeah.
Like a more rat-like,
almost like the plague, but in rat form.
In what, like natural rats.
Mm-hmm.
These are like ratty mole people with disease, and very very interesting
And characterful. All the models are cool characters.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of fluff, but I'm sure theirs is going to be fantastic.
Well, yeah, it's pretty interesting. They're just mole people. And also, we'd like to, don't forget to go to cafepress.ca/Deadzone podcast, and you get some Deadzone the podcast merch. We keep forgetting to mention it.
Well, yes, I would say we would appreciate if you both financially supported us in some way, but also just got the word out.
Yeah, and we like to see some of our shirts out there. That'd be kind of cool.
A T-shirt says 1,000 words, and it would be fun to know that people are out there spreading the word, but also...
And we're just trying to clothe everyone. That's our mission in life.
Yes. If you're currently naked, please do go to Cafe Press and get some apparel.
And we'll take a quick Mantic ad here. We'll be right back with some rules discussion.
Rules discussion.
You have been listening to the Deadzone podcast with your hosts Jack Fike and Rob Harper. The Deadzone podcast is dedicated to Deadzone, the tabletop miniature game by Mantic Games. Visit them at manticgames.com.
Hey, this is Pat Lewis, North American Community Manager for Mantic Games, and you are listening to Deadzone the podcast.
And we're back. So yes, the rules discussion. We did have some responses from our last one.
It seems to be a very popular. We've just very recently, since Adepticon, speaking to Ronnie, saying that when we were talking with him, he was saying that there were going to be some rules changes, and we went with that, and not anticipating that it's one of the bits we do that gets a lot of feedback.
Yeah, people tend to like to talk about the rules discussion.
So I think I'm glad we decided to we were on the vanguard, and we hopped on that, and it's paid off because we've had a lot of fan interaction.
Yep, hopefully Mantic's taking note. So from 38 we talked about the cards and if we like cards or not. And on Facebook we had some responses. We had from Tyler Schultz, who we've talked to before. He says, "Am I the only who loves stat cards? I've taught a ton of non-war gamers how to play Deadzone, and the stat cards help immensely. For people who already play war games, changing to a stat sheet would be fine, but for all beginners, I've taught the stat cards win every time for me." And I agree for beginners, but once again, I think the stat cards are going to stay in the starter box, so it'd be good for beginners that way.
Yes. We've both said that the when we first learned the game and the way we were playing the game, the stat cards were very helpful. I know that Ronnie has said that they're going to go the way of the dodo to a stat lines with interchangeable stats. It's going to change, but hopefully as a starter set, that starter box, stat cards remained, I would be perfectly happy with that.
And there will always be people putting out templates to make your own stat cards. They already do that now. So you can make your own stat cards out of the stat lines that you make up, kind of. So it might be a little bit extra step, but the option's always there.
And it's nice that, like he said, that he's teaching all these people to play as a teaching tool. It's something that we hadn't encountered because we don't have a big gaming group in this area. It doesn't have. We've not had to, but that's an interesting point there to have as a visual aid right there, right in front of you.
Yeah. And also Mike Davey mentioned on the same thing that I like stat cards, period. That's all he said. A lot of people do like stat cards. And I did it for a while, but it's just, you kind of grow them maybe?
Well, Mark, that's a pretty wordy response. I don't know if...
I think it was Mike, but yes.
We'll have to break it down point by point maybe, and get our rebuttals to some of your things, and also maybe if you could just elaborate on some of the other things, because you brought up a lot of interesting points. I'm just going to say that maybe one day we can really get in depth into that. So
I don't think we have time now.
Oh,
so
thank you anyways for your
thanks for responding, Mike.
Thank you for your input. We don't yes, Mike, we do appreciate it.
So, for the rules discussion this time, we're going to talk about balance, and this is kind of a heated issue, sort of, because there's two different types of balance we're going to be talking about, which is faction balance, should all factions be equal, and team balance within a team, should you be able to use all the models you have equally, or is it important to not just have the same model 5 times, or...
This was one of the discussions that created our series on how we would change the rules. It was one of the ones that came up because we had a misunderstanding live on the air about game balance and what I thought it meant and what bothered me about it. And it grew into a discussion that I think is pretty important in the Mantic world and in the game of Deadzone itself. And I'm sure we're not the only ones. This one seems it could be very easily construed as a hot topic.
Well, especially since Mantic, like all wargame companies, and a lot of wargamers themselves, seem to want to focus on tournament play. And Deadzone is not a tournament play kind of game. It's more of right now, it's more of a fun kind of game.
It's a casual game.
And to make it a tournament game, you would have to add some extra balance, because obviously there's certain factions that just aren't they don't compete.
So is that where we're going to start with, game balance amongst the factions?
Yep, we'll start with the game balance on the factions. And so the question is, should there be every faction be balanced across everything? For tournaments, obviously, if you want everybody to use every faction, you have to.
Yes.
But for us personally, I don't think either of us care if everything's balanced. But I can see more competitive players being like, well, I want to play I like what the Rebs look like. I wish they could be competitive enough to be played, right?
And we do have to go right off the hop and say, like, as it stands right now, there are factions that are far more powerful.
Oh, yeah.
There's a baseline faction, and there are some that are far weaker.
Yeah.
And as it stands right now, the Rebs are
they're definitely the
well
weakest.
known as the weakest. And for strength, the Marauders seems to be one of the ones. The Forge Fathers.
Forge Fathers seem to be the toughest. Yeah.
Forge Fathers can be argued one way or the other, but
even Plague, Plague win tournaments too, but
yeah, but
definitely, and the Enforcers are good too. But it's just amongst the top, they're pretty even. But once you get a little lower, the Asterians, I guess, have hard. We haven't really played with the Asterians yet, but I guess they're pretty weak for certain things, and they get a hard time. And definitely the Rebs are the lowest of the low. So we
can establish that there isn't balance right now.
Yes, for sure. I think nobody can argue that.
No one can argue that. I don't think so. Should it be fixed for casual gameplay? I don't really care.
No, for casual gameplay, as long as you amongst your people are really like either throw out the points and give the Rebs like double the points and let them just let them field a lot more guys and see how that affects the game.
That's true if you felt the need to fix it, which we could discuss.
Yeah, we might discuss that. Yeah, we can go on about that, but yeah, but otherwise we've played and it's just most times it's just as fun to lose as it is to win. Unless you lose, like, poorly. But usually, with the Rebs, you know you're going to lose, so you kind of accept it right off the bat. It's kind of more fun to see what you can do with them.
Yes, I think the farther the way the brass ring is, the more fun it is to see if you can just, with your fingertips,
you know you're not going to grab it, but...
You know, how... And I do...
It becomes like, okay, I got all these Rebs, can I kill a stage 2 or a stage 1? Like, probably not, but... But you almost have to make your own fun out of it, like, because the fun in the game, like trying to scour missions and things like that, are not fun because it's almost impossible. So, and that's another way we discussed missions and stuff. That's another way they can improve the Rebs is to improve their missions to make it a little more easier for them to win.
So there isn't game balance right now.
No.
You and I don't care so much about it. It's a casual game.
Yeah.
If Mantic wants to turn this into a tournament game where they might not care. They might, if everyone fielded Enforcers and Plague, they could just be just as happy.
Yeah.
People are in
Maybe
the
they don't care that nobody plays the Rebs in tournaments.
But
it almost makes you want to enter a tournament with Rebs, just to be like, I'm the one guy who went to the tournament with Rebs.
But with that being said, should there be on version 2.0 of Deadzone a change to the army lists to make a more balanced game.
Yeah, so how could you do that? Obviously, you could change the point costs for the Rebs or the other teams. I don't think you should change from the other teams. Why punish the other teams if the Rebs suck, right? You should make it the Rebs cheaper. Or they could just add more units to the Rebs to try to fill them out more. Give them some more harder punchers or tougher
more
guys.
versatile things. So you're of the opinion you would add more units that have more well-rounded to the Rebs, quick.
Maybe still in the same theme, but a little tougher, the things are lacking, which is a lot.
Okay.
Although
I can see that.
We do love the Yindish.
I love the Yindish.
And the Sorak Blaster, Sorak Swordspawn combo is a great combo. You knock them down and have the Swordspawn jump on them, that's a great combo. And I think the Rebs are just slightly either overpointed or slightly just too weak for maybe they improve their stats slightly, make them easier to shoot, or because their stats are pretty lackluster generally.
So without changing the point costs, you could just change the stat card and it would fix.
And I don't think you should touch the other ones because generally I think the rest of the factions, like once again we haven't played Astarians, so we're not sure about them, but the rest of them seem pretty even. Forge Fathers are really tough to kill.
Yes.
Super tough, like hard to kill, maybe too tough to kill.
And
especially with the life support. They even get a second to the chance at life.
And Marauders do a lot of damage in a lot of different ways.
But that's kind of the thing.
They're overpowered in that.
It almost seems like for them it's their leadership is a little too powerful because he's pretty tough. And because obviously their snipers suck. The Goblin snipers are terrible. I've never really had that much success with the Marauders, really. But I guess other people who actually know how to play them do have better success.
From what I hear, they're up there. And
Forge Fathers are definitely the ones that seem... And I have played against them, and it's like, yes, it's hard to even damage them. And generally Enforcers are, too, unless you get lucky.
Right.
But Enforcers are much more... They've obviously played them a lot more in the Plague. They're the most even.
I think that the Enforcers Plague are the baseline, the stat line. They have their strengths and weaknesses that can be argued are out of balance, but
overall it seems to go together.
But they are balanced because they're the baseline. I think that's pretty well established.
Well, the Marauders do have Mob Beasts. Mob Beasts should not be as cheap as they are.
Mob Beasts are
Those things are awesome, and that is too cheap for something that awesome.
A lion with a bomb on its back and a chainsaw tongue has to be awesome. I'm sorry.
But it shouldn't be, 4 points or 5 points or whatever it is.
So that for a discussion on balance for the factions themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we're in agreement.
I think not many people can argue that. It's just how to fix them must be the argument.
So, and the real question is, does Mantic care that only 2 or 3 factions will be used during tournaments for people who want to win?
Well, I think they're sick of hearing people saying to them, like even when we were at Mantic Open Night, when are you going to fix the Rebs? That's the question they hear every time.
And it was Andrew from
Family
777, and he asked it just like that.
Yeah.
When are the
Rebs going to be
or not suck or whatever he said. Yeah. It was that pointed.
And everybody laughed.
The audience erupted into laughter because, and even
everybody
and Johnny P. Everyone laughed because it's known. It's without question.
But it's in the fluff. It makes sense that the Rebs aren't great, but maybe they should be a little bit more competitive. Why haven't the Enforcers just wiped them out then?
And so you're saying, eventually for tournament play, if they want to see all the factions equally represented, some changes will have to be made. But as a casual game player, you just have to make your own fun or don't play Rebs. Yeah,
it sucks to say that though. If you like the look of the Rebs, it should be something you could be able to play and win at still.
I agree.
I think you have to almost change the point costs, or just be like, I have 70 points, you get 100 points, or something like.
The point costs is one way to do it, so you could have more guys.
But the question is, even if you overpointed them, could they still? They don't have AP. They don't have. Could they even damage some Forge Fathers and things?
I think with
enough guys firing,
enough people firing, statistically, you've arranged. Say instead of having it on your team, the 2 Yindish and a Yindish sergeant, if you had 4 Yindish
or a couple Grogans with their big desolators,
and then if you were able to field more of the Grogans
or the Teratons, because Teratons are so expensive, you can if one it max in an army. If you could even throw 2 of those in running up, and
that's something to look for. Point costs, bringing some of those
slightly in line
down.
So,
Which now that brings to.
Within the factions, about
balance within the factions.
Because as it is, obviously, every time you play, there's certain models you never use.
And
for every faction. Jack never uses stage 2s, or really stage 3s. Very few stage 3s.
Yeah.
Stage 2s, they're just too expensive for what they do.
I've not found them to be... They don't have a place in my army. And
not when you can have the Teraton or the Plague Swarm kind of do the exact same thing, but better.
Yeah.
So why would you have 2s?
In a world where you had to use the starter kit models, if you were forced to...
I'm sure you'd end up using them, yeah.
You would have to use them. But since we had more models than came with the original box set, and we're allowed to, okay, I'll field some more Plague Dogs, and they'll do basically a tying up. They'll be able to do certain things on the field. The stage 2s, I have not used one in a long, long time.
Have you ever? Yeah, you have. Because I remember sniping them.
I didn't know how powerful snipers were.
That was like the first game.
The first game, I stood him up out in the open just because I wanted to see how many dice he used, what the results were, and it was okay, boom, dead. And I went, oh.
Although I think at the time we were playing it wrong, but still.
I think
still a sniper could probably kill him.
I think today, if we were to reenact that same situation,
most likely the same result would happen.
Your sniper would kill him, no problem. But
it's like on the Enforcers, I find I don't... Well, maybe once we get vehicles involved, but I don't really use the rocket launcher guy, the missile launcher. It's just, I'd rather have a sniper. I think they're both the same cost, and it's just, you're throwing all your eggs into one basket with the rocket, or the missile launcher, where the sniper's a little bit more easy to hit. Like, you can hit better. So.
The rocket launcher will have its place.
Against Striders, I guess, because we haven't really played against Striders.
In the expanded game, there will be, especially in Warpath.
Oh yeah, Warpath.
They'll have a place. Right now, your rocket launcher has failed every time. You used to try him out in different
and I always
roles.
miss. I don't think I've ever hit with him.
You've never hit with him. You've never done...
so it always frustrated me. And then also for the Enforcers, I don't use the... people like them, but I don't use the drones and things like that. You're
not a fan of the engineer?
No, the engineer guy. And Assault Enforcers. Because if I'm playing Plague, Assault Enforcers are useless. And if I'm not playing Plague, I'd rather just shoot people still anyways.
Yeah.
It's hand-to-hand. They're not great at hand-to-hand, so why bother? Another character that's useless for Enforcers is both, and there's also one for Plague. MVPs is Simmons for the Plague and Sergeant Howlett for the Enforcers. Way too expensive for not doing anything, really. Being
basically a baseline troop stats and a couple small perks, but being...
And Howlett's got
4 times the price of, 5 times the price of.
And Howlett's got that, he goes berserk and can attack your own guys. It's like, well, that's really a negative. You don't want to be using him if it's a... So yeah, there's quite a few...
Every faction will have models that you don't use, like, say, for the Rebs.
Humans.
That's
humans are useless.
That's your pet peeve right there. That's
because Yindish do the exact same as humans, but better. So why bother ever using a human? And I think it's for 1 point more for Yindish than a human. It's not even like you're gaining points.
And like we said, if you had to use the base units that come in the box, you're going to have units in your...
You might have to throw some humans in there.
You can have humans, but as soon as you have more than... And you can start building an actual strike team, humans fall by the wayside.
Yeah. As for Forge Father, since it's a smaller list, I don't think there's anything useless in them. We're not sure about the Starians, as we say, we haven't played them.
That is true.
For the Marauders, the Goblin Snipers are pretty crappy. Like, they're so short, you can't see anything. And then even if you could see something, their to hit is so poor that they're kind of worse than you can pick somebody else up better. And other than that, we haven't played too many other people in the... I think... Maybe it's just us, but really, for some of these lists, you just spawn the same thing over and over again. That's the problem.
Well, that's the other side of this coin that I was going to bring up. Now, we've talked about models you're not going to use because they're
just not worth it. Yeah.
Good. Within the faction, there are some models every faction has that always gets fielded.
Yeah.
Because they are so good.
Like
Teratons.
Maw Beasts. Dogs. Plague Dogs.
I think I'm alone in that.
They're really good for tying people up. And then you can get your rest of your big guys in there. They're so fast. If you can't kill them before they get to you, you're in trouble.
But there are some. So now, do you think it's important that when you're building a list that every model has an equal chance of being represented amongst the baseline troops? Because they are broken down to specialists and stuff like that. So you can't go, well, I always take a Teraton, but I would never take a human. Well, no, because one's a...
You have to take one and not the other.
Yeah, one's a trooper, and you have to have so many of those.
But just generally, like, is it annoying when people take too many of one thing and not others, or is it annoying to yourself? Like, there are some models I wish I get to use more, but you can do what Jack does and just field whatever you want. Like, Jack's throwing some weird things into a unit just because he wanted to use the model.
Yes.
So
I like the way the Indige look. So,
I guess if you want to be competitive, you're going to be doing certain things in your list. You're not going to change it too much. But if you want to just have fun, play whatever you want. Throw whatever. You never know what's going to happen. Like, I think you threw the Sorak and the Sorak Sword Spawn, and you never knew how effective that was going to be, and they almost killed a stage 1.
It was not effective.
Other than Jack rolling terribly for his roll, they would have killed the stage 1.
Dave rolled exceptionally well.
That too, but I think you didn't get many successes either. But either way, that was a great combination that you probably wouldn't have known because you wouldn't have bothered playing those guys if you hadn't just randomly went, hey, these look like fun to play.
Yeah, I like the models.
Even Plague Dogs, you really only played Plague Dogs originally because you liked the idea of having dogs running around.
Yes, I did.
And even the Mob Beasts, we wouldn't have played the Mob Beasts and found out how good they were unless it was just because we liked the models.
The Mob Beast is the first model when we first started the podcast, even before there was such a thing as Mob Beasts.
We saw the pictures
and we went, oh, so far it's been pretty standard.
Yeah. That was the thing. It was like, oh my god, that's so cool.
It was the first original thing that I saw that was like, okay, that is Mantic's on the right path. They're moving away from the standard.
Yeah.
But so for balance within in each faction,
I don't think it's that much of an issue.
I don't think so either.
But
humans not being used, I don't care.
Yeah, it kind of depresses me, but there is certain models you're never going to use, and that's maybe not right, but I just like the idea. Personally, for me, it's a bunch of it's for painting them anyways. It's fun to paint them. I don't care if I actually play with them. And I can't wait for there's more to come out, so more.
And finally, I think the question that is both faction balance and within the faction balance, do you think that every faction, to be competitive, has to have a sniper? Have every faction having a version of every other thing so that you would be able to play.
No, I think they should all be unique in what they do.
Heavy on one aspect?
Yeah, heavy on one aspect. Or even jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. But I don't think the Plague should have a sniper. I don't think the Enforcer should have a big beastie who can fight hand to hand. That's not what they do, right? So
you don't need
everybody to do everything. You want to have flavor in the army. Otherwise, who cares what you field, right?
That's right.
You need flavor. And I think that's where we got confused before when we were talking about balance. You thought I was saying everybody should be exact same, but I was meant more equal to win.
We were talking to Community Pat, and I saw the new beast that's coming out with Contagion, and I said, "Oh, good. Another giant slow beast that will fight hand to hand for the Plague." Mm-hmm. I'm being sarcastic, and Rob thought, "Oh well."
Well, we were kind of because you were like, "Oh, what? They couldn't give me a sniper or something?" And it was.
You thought that was because I wanted to balance the Plague with
more shooters,
and I was more so saying that
you're sick of painting the same thing over and over again.
And a sniper, I've never played a team with a sniper that was effective, but it's what kind of spurred on this discussion of balance, that I didn't care that all the factions weren't balanced.
People do, though. I'm sure there's people out there who do want every faction to be able to win just because they want to be able to play whatever they want.
I agree. Again, tournament play.
Yeah.
Mantic will have to make changes to accommodate those people, because those people are the competitive types that will who will pay to play, who will bring more people in because they are adamant. They're the people who, when you see it in conventions and stuff, and they're pushing the game, and you have the rabid fan like that who needs to. You have to kind of
cater to them
because they're what's going to make you grow faster. You'll get your money from them.
And that's kind of the issue with Deadzone only being in Kickstarter so far. Very few things have been released outside of the Kickstarters. Because in a normal game, every month you might get another model that might fill out the units slightly differently, and that's how GW does it. They put out 3 or 4 models a month, and not the same faction, just different factions, and it'll fill out the factions in different ways and create different ways to play. And like you say, that increases their revenue because you want to buy more stuff, right? And Mantic will eventually get there. They said that after this Kings of War 2 is coming out, they're going to do that for Kings of War, where every month they're going to do a different focus on a different faction and give them something. And that's going to be good because I think you have to expand in small ways instead of just giant ways every time. The little expansions are the important things to get people thinking about different ways to play and reacting to how that plays, so you can like change. Okay, that one's this. Well, we have to add this to kind of offset that.
Not every Windows update has to be a full pack.
Yeah, not a service pack. Yeah,
it doesn't have to be a service pack. It can be a small security update.
Yeah, and that's what they need it for. Once again, balancing, but even just variety in models, right?
Yeah.
Because if they kept throwing out, like, oh, there's a new Enforcer? Oh, that's kind of neat, I'll buy that. You know, like, especially, and it's only like, well, it's $5 at a time or whatever, who cares, right?
Right.
So instead of throwing down your $200 for a Kickstarter. And in the end, I think they maybe aren't confident enough to think that that'll be successful, but I think it will be successful.
They have a lot.
I haven't seen their numbers. Maybe it's not.
They have a lot on their plate. They've got a system right now that is pretty like big events, and to have those small releases is hard to plan out as well when you have these giant events.
And that's why I guess Kings of War has gotten to the point where it's big enough that they think it can support little releases. So hopefully Deadzone will get to that point too.
And as for balance, I think we're of the agreement that for us it doesn't matter. Casual play,
no, we don't care.
Yeah. And there will be a time when Mantic has to address that for tournament play. The more popular it gets,
or change the scenarios a bit more to make it so shooting everybody isn't the easiest solution, or just destroying everybody's. You know, that tends to be the way even in tournaments now. Even if you have a objective, it's still destroy the other guy is the usual way to win. You know?
Yeah. It's
maybe it's because it's on a small board. It's hard to make it more strategic, but
it's the fallback. It's for some it's the go-to, but it's the default. Oh, I'm not going to be good at this objective. Well, it means I have to wipe them out.
Just wipe them out, yeah.
Yeah.
And it is only a 2x2 board, so that's the thing. The mat's also so small that it's hard to be tactical in a larger scale without getting engaged in a firefight almost right away, right? So,
Right. Okay. Well,
I think, so we didn't really say anything there, but tournaments need to be balanced if you really care about competitive play, or if you care that Rebs just never get played in tournaments. Maybe that's just the way it is.
Or your little human who you got in your starter box, you've painted up, he looks amazing, and he will never see the light of day.
Yeah. Or you can just proxy him as the edition. He's a superhuman. So, we'll take another short break, and we'll be back, and we'll have some shout-outs.
It is time for a brief message from our friends at One More Radio.
It's time to enter the Strike Zone.
The Strike Zone podcast is the ultimate guide to the miniature sports game, Dreadball. From the ringside seats of an underground Dreadball Extreme match to the glitz and glamour of Dreadball Classic, the Strike Zone strives to bring you the latest and greatest Dreadball has to offer. I am your host, Adam, aka Mr. Voxman, and you can find out more at warmoreradio.com.
Welcome back to the Deadzone podcast. It is shout-outs time.
And we're back. That was an amazing ad. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you want to get a copy, just listen at home. I'm sure if you were to email Rob, he'll...
Well, you probably should email Adam at Strike Zone. It's his ad. So.
Well, okay, yeah, well... get yourself a copy. You can listen while you're on your bus.
And go listen to Adam Voxman on The Strike Zone.
The Strike Zone.
So just to have one shout out right here, we have Matthew Adlard, and he's on Twitter. It's at Matt_Adlard, and he made a Deadzone mats. He designed them that you can print yourself. I'll put the link into the show notes, and it's from the Mantic forums. He did two different versions. He did a clean version of a street, and then he did a kind of like a disgusting stained version of the same street with bullet cartridges riddled around. But it's a nice looking street. I'd like to see even more to expand that into a full 4x4 board or something even.
I like that. It has the same aesthetic as the original mats that came with. It's got that same grayish color, the concrete. It's got like a manhole that's similar, the same casings on the ground, but expanded. I like the looks of it.
Yeah, for sure. And as we talked about last week with the Mats by Mars, more mats is more better because it just adds that extra character to every single game.
Yes, it's on the horizon that we have to expand the playing field. We've got enough models. Everyone by now is going to be having enough models to field bigger armies. So with bigger armies come bigger responsibility. I mean, more mats, and that's nice. That matches the aesthetic of the original mats. You could butt that up against the originals. Very, very good work.
And speaking of the mats by Mars, we did ask last time if anybody had any ideas for the what new mats you'd like to see. And we're still taking ideas to send to them to maybe get some made. And we did have a response on Twitter from Nuparibo, and he said maybe a cavern or subterranean, because it would also work well for RPGs, and it'd also be great for mines. And the new
Contagion
Infestation is going to have is going to have the vermine, so we do need some mines for them to scuttle around in.
That is a very good point.
And of course, Jack mentioned he wants lava.
Lava would be interesting, but no, you're right. A cavernous thing, like for role playing games, it would work. For Deadzone, still works, and it seems almost like too obvious for.
You can even use it in Shadows of Brimstone and things like that.
Yeah, that would get a lot of use.
Mines. People seem to like mines for some reason. Maybe it's just the old dungeon crawl kind of idea. Hey, even a dungeon floor plan mat would be kind of cool.
Mines are scary.
Indoor mats, or like a factory floor. I think we mentioned that with diamond plating.
Yeah.
We're trying to think of other mats, giving people some ideas here. Like a lake town, kind of more watery, because you wanted, even in the swamp one, you're saying make more terrain rules about going through water.
You could.
Interesting ideas, and that's what we want. Spread some more ideas.
Yes, some more ideas on possible mats, because it does add a nice change to the game. It's going to happen that you're going to need more mats. I think expanding out to 4 times the original mat size will happen, especially now with Warpath being the upper tier and a middle.
Yeah, the middle tier. I assume the middle tier is going to be still measured, but it's good to have. You can always use them. Who cares to have the grid on it? But.
Yeah, actually, then you could by eyeballing guesstimate the distance, and you're not.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the news that there's going to be another version of the game, a third
middle ground
between Deadzone and Warpath. I think that will be a thing to come, a mat that size.
And not to mention, for scenarios, it's good to have different mats. You can build a scenario around the mat. You can see what's on there. You can build, different things. And
very nice.
Right now, we're going on for a special ad here, because it's from a new channel, or a new show. That's an old show. It used to be called Mantic Radio. Now it's called Countercharge.
Mantic Radio is dead. Long live Countercharge.
And they've decided to focus directly on Kings of War, because they seem to, that's their game of choice now. And they're, as Jack used to say, we're a Kings of War podcast. That was always the thing they loved the most.
Yes.
You could tell. But
they started as to do all the different Mantic products, and it was but they really did fall in love with Kings of War.
Yeah, they always liked the idea of the mass battle fantasy game.
And you could tell the show had become a Kings of War show, and it's interesting. So certainly now if you are interested in Kings of War, if you're just hearing about Kings of War because you're from another company that's treated you like garbage, and Kings of War is hot right now. It is hot. And if you want the latest, and you want to hear about it, and you want to learn about it, and you want to see what it's like to be a passionate Kings of War player, Countercharge, go listen.
And they've had a few episodes out already, and the first episode was great because it showed their kind of new format where they're going to discuss every little bit, talk about multi-basing, talk about the rules, and they're really getting really in depth. And I like how they're starting it new, so you can just come into it. You're just starting to play the game. You come into Countercharge, it kind of brings you into the game, and they seem to be getting it going. So here's the ad, and do enjoy it. The production quality is making us look sad.
Yeah, this really shamed us with this ad. And I joke about the ads. I do. This is a good ad.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. They did a great ad. And you'll hear it right now.
Countercharge. Countercharge is the first podcast totally dedicated to the game Kings of War. Join your hosts Andrew, Mark, and Rob as they delve into the world of Mantica and bring you in in-depth coverage of all things Kings of War. You can find us on iTunes and at ohiohammer.com, a proud member of the Ohio Hammer network of podcasts.
And now, back to your hosts, Rob Harper and Jack Pike. Now for a segment we call Our Stuff.
Now, wasn't that great?
That was good, you gotta admit.
So we'll move on to our stuff. And speaking of Kings of War, both of us...
Speaking of Kings of War.
Both of us have started... we got Wrath of Kings from Cool Mini or Not, and we're converting them into Kings of War miniatures. And Jack's been working on his Hadros, right?
Yes, I changed the Hadros. I painted some of them into...
We're not going to be showing pictures because that's a little outside the purview, but...
Yeah, a little outside of the Dead Zone, but for our stuff and what we've been doing, we're planning on playing some Kings of War just to see, and so we've been... just making army lists has taken up quite a bit of time, actually.
We keep changing them, and...
Because we want to play, we want to make sure it's reasonable for a starter army, so...
And as for me, we thought we discussed this already, but I look back and we didn't discuss it, is that I painted up the rest of the Asterians for us to match Jack's paint job. And here's what we did. It's just a bunch of bronzy gold kind of Asterians.
A bunch of metallic-y...
And I think I matched Jack's paint job pretty good.
We've now put them together in one set, and when we start fielding, if you play the Asterians, you will not be able to really determine whose are whose, or none of them will look out of the ordinary. It's going to be it will look like a unified force.
And I did like painting the weapon platforms the best.
I did enjoy those too.
They were fun. They had a lot of detail you could play on them,
and now Rob did magnetize the weapon to the drone itself,
the turrets, yeah.
So you can interchange. So that's I really like that. I look forward to playing Asterians to have one of those. Plus, I something new.
Yep, and just some Asterians. And as we're talking about Kings of War, I am doing a nastier group for them into... Both of us are end up going to use Abyssal lists, I think. Or no, you used the Dust. Kingdom of Dust.
Kingdom of Dust. I wanted to start with the Abyssal because the Hadros from Wrath of Kings looks Cthulhu-esque, and it would be fun to have, instead of like a hellish, more of a mythos aesthetic. But if we want to play anytime soon, I don't have that much time to paint. The dust,
you already have skeletons.
It's a mixture of undead plus mummies plus I can find and field an army of those now convenient. So that's why I've.
And we'll move on to the Iron Watch ad. We'll get through this, and then we'll have some Warpath rules to discuss.
Yes.
It is time for a brief message from our friends at Iron Watch Magazine.
Do you like Mantic games? Do you want to read about your favorite games in a monthly magazine? Have we got the offer for you? Iron Watch Magazine. Iron Watch brings you the latest news, articles, and short stories taking place in the Mantic universe. Dreadball, Kings of War, Deadzone, Warpath. You want it? They got it. Ironwatch.wordpress.com. Get it now for the low price of free. You can't beat that at twice the price. That's ironwatch.wordpress.com. Download now.
Hey, this is Jack from the Deadzone Podcast, and you've been listening to the Deadzone Podcast.
With Jack from the Deadzone Podcast.
So much Deadzone Podcast, it'll make you vomit.
And we're back. And this is another continuing thing for our Warpath rules. This time we're going to talk about vehicles. And hopefully we'll move through it fast. We don't want to dwell too much on the minutia. But we'll start with vehicles. And once again, the vehicles are always on their own. So they take damage independently, even if they group up into squadrons, which we'll talk about later. They'll be independent models, which makes sense because they're big targets on the field.
Yes.
They're unflinching. It's kind of like the Striders. They can't be knocked down. They different rules for that. And they can only be suppressed by weapons that can damage it, which makes sense. They're not going to get shot at by pea shooters and all of a sudden, oh no, I'm suppressed.
Small arms fire, and all of a sudden the tank crew panics and just like, oh, I can't leave behind this building. That guy's got a pistol. Well, if it's a sniper with a pistol, and he's using his sniper skill on the pistol, I could see why.
And I'm going to ignore that one too. And for damaging and destroying vehicles, this is where 6s explode. Because to shoot a vehicle, it counts lucky shots like hitting fuel tanks or the drivers. 6s explode on them, which is kind of cool. And it could either stay on the board if it doesn't get blown up. It'll stay on the board as impassable terrain. But alternatively, if you really destroy it bad, it'll explode and just like damage everybody around it, which is kind of fun. I do like exploding things in games.
Yeah, in Deadzone, the grenades had that possibility. It was one of those things that, if the grenades can knock you off of the terrain, you can knock you into walls and stuff, and it was fun. In practice, we've had a lot less success. Yeah. It's been far less fun than I thought.
I wish grenades are a little bit more powerful, yeah.
But the
exploding vehicles,
I think, will be fun as well.
And as for tanks, you can have tanks, when they charge people, they can keep going, just run right over units, which is kind of fun. Makes sense.
That makes sense.
And they can also, everything can form up into squadrons, which activate altogether, but they still take damage independently. And then there's flyers, which they're not deployed on the board as usual. They kind of come off the edges and fly through the boards. And if you do strafing runs, you do the strafing run and you draw a line, everything under that line gets hit by a certain amount of shots, even your own guys. And then once it's done strafing, it goes off the board again and has to come back on the board. So it's like implying that it's flying around and
doing a circuit above the battlefield and
which is
going
kind of
on
fun.
Strafing runs.
And you can shoot at them still, but they'll only be on the board partial times. And when you destroy a flyer, it always crashes off the board, implying that's going too fast to land straight down, which is kind of... It makes it so you can't... I think they did it so you can't just be like, plane, right into your unit.
Kamikaze your vehicle into...
Yeah.
You know, I've only got one wound left, and he's got his unit with the commander right there. I'll just
crash him into him. Which maybe you should allow that, because that's kind of fun. But
in time, maybe one of the factions might have that as like a dead man switch that just causes it to nosedive or something.
Yep. And then there's also transports in the game, which can transport X number of teams. They have a value for that. And you can exit and enter the vehicles, because it could be either an APC or it could be flyers. But the flyers to exit, and the flyers never land, so you have to have anti-grav to get out of the flyers with people. So it's probably only enforcers. They'll jump out with their jump packs to get out of the planes as they fly into certain areas, which is kind of cool.
Sort of like sci-fi paratroopers just being dropped in a line.
And then obviously if it's a ground vehicle gets destroyed, it blows up just like it would do damage to everybody inside. And then if it's a plane, though, if it's people inside when the plane crashes, they're just dead. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
And, yes, and there's also open-topped vehicles, which usually when you're in a vehicle, you're in an APC, you can't shoot anybody and you can't be shot. But then there's open-top vehicles where you can shoot out, but you can also be targeted, which is kind of fun. It opens up, just those slight rules open up for a lot of different vehicle options to be put into the game.
Especially once they start making the vehicles, that if you could have a removable top version of whatever it's called. Let's say it's called the
Warthog, or I guess
the Lion or whatever it's called.
The Warthog's a real thing, isn't it? Warthog, I think so. It's a real military vehicle.
It is the A-10 Warthog that is the
airplane. Planes are Warthogs. Yeah.
Or you're thinking Twisted Metal Warthog.
Maybe. He's the tank, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Anyways, so that's the vehicles pretty much. And then there's mass infantry, which are light vehicles. They act as individuals and can form into squadrons. And I assume this will be more like the big vermin guys and big plague guys. They can be made into mass infantries. And if a unit breaks, is reached, but they're not destroyed. They only get wounded. They kind of have 2 wounds, and then you have to break them twice to get rid of them. But the first time you break them, they become suppressed, and so they're wounded, so they're a little less effective, but they're still on the board. So you have to kind of beat them twice to get them off the board, which is kind of fun. And that's pretty much what we got for Warpath this week, because we're trying to keep it shorter. And it looks like it's going to be fun.
It looks like it's going to be fun. Now, with Kings of War, we're going to try that. Warpath, we'll probably try that. We have the models. We
do know that it's going to be a while before that Kickstarter, probably not until January, so we got a lot of time before we have to get into it.
We have some rules, and we have enough that we could make an army list.
Just a small armies,
we could try it out, but this is still the Deadzone podcast, so we're going to be hopefully we're going to be playing a couple games, getting some battle reports, showing you some pictures of Mats by Mars mats, the new terrain that we've
lots of new terrain. I've started painting the VTOL from Mad Mecha Guy. It's looking good.
Okay, so hopefully you're going to see some of the things that we've done reviews for in action very soon, and hearing about our tales of woe and destruction.
And we'll start trying to implement some of these rules changes and seeing how they work.
Knock down a house rules for the Dead Zone podcast.
We do eventually want to collect all these house rules from everybody into maybe a fan-made compendium kind of.
We have JP has started, and I've seen that some of our house rules have made it onto their gaming group, their stores, and they're big shots. They have a lot of people, and they have tournaments, and so it's good.
Yep, everybody collecting together to make some. Back in the day for Dungeons & Dragons, there was something called the Unearthed Arcana, and that started off as just fans getting together and making all these new rules. So I'd like to see the same kind of thing for Dead Zone, just a bunch of fans getting together, putting all their house rules together. You can pick and choose what you want to use. And
with Ronnie working on, right now, Dead Zone 2.0, it's the best time to be playtesting. We're the research and development for a company that really does care about its fan base, really listens, and really tries to do the best job. And I think that says a lot about Mantic.
Yep, so we'll end it there. We'll be back in a few weeks to have more discussions about Dead Zone. And I've been Rob.
And I'm Jack.
And this has been Dead Zone, the podcast. See you next time.
Thank you, and good night.
Thank you for listening to the Dead Zone podcast. I have been your announcer, William Randolph Wintergreen. Visit the website, deadzonegame.podbean.com. Email your hosts at deadzonepodcast@gmail.com. On Twitter, you can follow the show at Dead Zone Podcast. The Dead Zone Podcast is a production of Vinland Old Time Radio Productions. You have been listening to the Dead Zone Podcast. And now, a word from the fine folks at Vinland Old Time Radio.
Vinland Old Time Radio.
It is to laugh.
Bastro! Ahoy there, Dirigible. Help a fellow Empire citizen out with you.
It's a gavel. A haunted gavel.
Have you read The King in Yellow?
Hello, William.
I made the koala burgers.
So, what's new?
Are you insane?
That better be a rhetorical question. And yes.
Well, fuck, Ula.
I once knew a Spaniard in Tarragona who spoke in gibberish like you.
Up, and escape!
That was terrible.
I should be a god, and instead I'm stuck down here like a worm.
She would tell me such wonderful stories. Dr. Deja Vu will return. Africa's a continent?
It's with great protest.
Sorry, Judgy Pudding.
Ooh, now that's some fine programming.
VinlandOldTimeRadio.podbean.com